I'm confident in saying that most of you will have seen these animations before in your time on YouTube. Whether you're trying to work, study or chill, you've probably checked into one of these streams before. I certainly have. Working from home for long stretches of time, these streams are a godsend. Background music that fills the empty silences without demanding too much by way of attention or concentration, allowing that to sit elsewhere. I often listen to this music for hours on end, day after day, without ever really registering any of it. However, every now and then, a song would pop up that would snap me from my stupor. More recent examples include the wonderful track by Sleepy Fish that you're currently listening to, I Wish It Would Never Stop Snowing. When this song came on, I immediately felt the need to find it on streaming and listen to everything this wonderful artist has ever made. There may very well be a Sleepy Fish video on this channel at some point in the future. But, for now, let's start at the beginning. This is the origin for my love of lo-fi chill hop. I'm Rustin Charmaine, and this is Exploring the Concept. Right from the opening moments of the track Dreamcatcher, which we'll get to, I was entranced. I had to find out who this Vanilla was and check out the record that this mesmerising track was on. 2015's Origin. A fitting name for the first record I would hear in a brand new genre for me. Of all of the many thousands of people that listen to lo-fi streams every day, I don't know how many ever look up or follow any of the artists involved. My intention with this video is to, hopefully, convert some of you from streamers to fans. As with my video on Vaudlo, and I'll pop that in the cards, this is another case of music having no or minimal vocals actually adding to the meanings it can contain. For those unfamiliar, Vanilla's work is made up almost entirely of jazz samples with additional beats and tracks. Some of these contain vocals, but the vocal is more used as another instrument in the palette of sounds that create pictures in the mind of the listener. What I'll explore in these videos are the images conjured in my mind, not necessarily what the artist has stated or intended. And before I get comments complaining about the title, saying that this record isn't actually the first ever lo-fi chill hop record, that's just a pun based on the album title. All clear? Smashing. Let's get to it. This introductory track does its job perfectly, setting the dreamlike scene of the album to follow. This piano piece, combined with the blowing of wind chimes, feels like closing your eyes and drifting off to sleep. And here we are, as alluded to in the introduction, the track that first drew me to this record. As soon as I heard those chimes and flute sounds, I was hooked. This track feels like strolling through a wooded area as sunlight darts its way between the leaves, through the canopy to the floor. This track reminds me of my trip to Japan, but perhaps that's influenced by the fact that I travelled there around the time when I was first hooked on Vanilla's work? Maybe. The other tracks don't do as much, so perhaps not. The sound definitely has a ring of the Orient to it. A masterpiece of the craft, the first full track of the record, an incredibly strong start. As I write these scripts, I sit and listen to the record over and over. This particular sentence is being written on my first playthrough. Why am I mentioning this? Well, because as soon as Dreamcatcher ended, my brain immediately began playing the opening tingle to this track before it even had a chance to begin. That's a true sign that you've listened to an album a lot in your life. If I tried playing this on shuffle, I'm pretty certain that it'd feel so wrong to me that I'd be compelled to shower. This is a piece of art that warrants being enjoyed from front to back. Anyway, Arrow is the second full-length track of the record and brings my dream state around to relaxing in a 1920s Chicago speakeasy, enjoying some illegal tipple whilst the soft jazz rings. Our first pseudo-vocal track of the record. And if anybody knows what language this sample is in or where it's from, please let me know in the comments because I'd love to find out. This track feels like strolling through a close-knit neighbourhood at night, a community that you belong to and that is home to you. Something I don't know if I've ever really felt, but if it feels anything like this, I'd love to find that one day. This is such a summer jam for me. This song is cruising with the top down, shades on, smile from ear to ear. Vocals in this one as well, sampled of course. The sorrow of unrequited love drips from every syllable and yet feels like hope and lust and fire and ice. This song is a summer crush, taking a chance either in the warmth of the sun or the mild still night.
Ever since you moved in down the hall, ever since you moved in hall,
Probably my favourite track on the record, Beautiful.
I can't seem to keep you here at all. Oh, no, it's all in my mind.
This song is working through stresses and contextualising tribulations, addressing negative feelings and emotions whilst maintaining a positive outlook. The beat never relents, infectiously bouncy, contrasted with the dour and heavy sounding guitar and vocal until both soar simultaneously. Every track on this record, and this one is a great example of this, is impossible to sit still to. If you can listen to any of these without nodding, clicking, clapping or tapping, I think there might be something wrong with you, honestly. I've never been one for beach holidays, perhaps because it was the only kind of holiday I was ever taken on as a kid, perhaps because I hate hot weather. Anyway, my idea of an ideal break is travelling to a city or countryside that I've never seen before and exploring and observing a culture that is foreign to me. This song feels like I'm picking my way through a stone-built castle town near Lake Garda in northern Italy. Specific, I know, but that's because I've done that and I loved it. This track takes me back to those feelings, those sights, those smells, those sounds. Wonderful. Speaking of summer holidays and me not liking them, the next track is named for one. It doesn't feel like a beach though, this feels like a garden party. Barbecue cooking more meat than anybody could possibly want to eat. Ice cooler boxes holding nowhere near enough beer to last the night. People chatting utter garbage as they mill around, watching the kids and dogs sprint around the garden like it's the first time they've ever been outside. Ugh. For context, anyone finding this video in the future, this was recorded during a COVID lockdown and we're all so sick of being indoors. Please world, open up soon. This one is another favourite of mine from the record. Unlike some previous tracks, I don't have a particular vision or reason as to why, I just find it an inescapable jam. I didn't start making notes until the track was almost all the way over, because I was too busy dancing and vibing sitting here on my couch. This is a triumph of a beat. If there doesn't exist a million mixtapes with freestyles over this track, I'll be amazed. The title track, and honestly probably the weakest track so far. There's a lot of action in the reverb that sounds really interesting, but not as much going on as in the previous songs. I feel like this one is missing a few layers compared to its compatriots. Not a bad track by any means, it feels like lying flat on your back in the sea and letting the waves take you up and down, up and down. It's at this point though that I need to point out that this record is 17 tracks long and clocks in at over an hour. Can't afford to drop off in the second half. No need to worry, just listen to that beat. I genuinely question your capacity for human empathy if you feel no desire to dance while this is playing. The setup for this track, or rather these two tracks in one, is of a band playing in a small club. It works, I feel like I'm there. The applause ringing out rather than feeling obnoxious makes me want to join in with all my might. And you know what? I did.
Lost, dude, the meaning runs out of my swept away again.
This song is chilling at home with the one you love. Maybe you're cleaning, tidying, preparing food, doing all that boring adult stuff. But you're doing it together, so it's all good. Chores are so much less like work when you can piss about and have fun whilst doing them. And this song takes me to that mood. Productive silliness, lazy Sunday, love.
Suddenly love so empty. I'm late to you.
It could be that I'm being led by the title, or perhaps the fact that this feels like it could be on the soundtrack to an isometric, simple video game, but this feels like relaxing in a field to me. You've pitched a tent by the stream, and you're basking in the early morning stillness, listening to the rumblings and rustlings of nature at work. This track is a reminder that life is beautiful. I'm starting to understand why I turn to albums like this in times of confusion and frustration. Again, I may be having my mind swayed by the title of the track, but this feels like sitting on a Japanese train and rumbling through the countryside. Japan definitely deserves its reputation as one of the most beautiful chunks of planet that exists under our feet, and believe me, even from a train window, the vistas are stunning. This song is an excitement to explore and a wonder at what is being witnessed. This song is a morning spent standing on the balcony, leaning on the railing, maybe a cigarette or cup of coffee in hand, just observing the world below. Sounds of the radio drifting out through the open screen door, you nod your head slowly to its rhythm. Sonder. One of my favourite words, it describes the feeling of realising that every single human being on the planet has a mind like your own, full to the brim with ideas, goals, worries, desires. This song encapsulates that for me. The second sort of weak track on the record here. Hey, 2 out of 16 ain't bad. The beat is strong enough, but much like with Origin, there just isn't enough going on around it and there's nothing to separate it from what came before. This track doesn't evoke anything for me really, I'm afraid to say, but don't let that detract from the overall experience of this record. A fitting title for the final track on the album, one that begins with falling asleep and takes us through a gambit of various pleasant dreams and memories. This beat has more energy than most on the album and, in my mind, conjures images of working in a factory, on a production line of sorts. It could be that this is intentional and we have woken from our dream and gone to work, the return to life. It rubber stamps the album nicely and rounds out the loose concept. I hope I've managed to make clear how excellent this record is. An hour will flash past in an instant, I assure you. I've spoken on this channel before about how instrumental music can often have more meaning than art where the emotion is explicitly stated. Again, I'll put that video in the cards, but this album and indeed this genre in general are excellent examples of that. There's a reason we listen to this stuff when we need an escape from our own heads. It enables us to allow our minds to drift and explore ideas that otherwise might slip away. I'd highly recommend checking out all of Vanilla's 3 records and listening to them as records. They work best that way. Or of course, you could stick to the streams. If you've enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to read how these songs made you feel, what you saw in your daydreams. If you'd like to see more videos like this, check out my channel and follow me on Patreon at patreon.com/RoystonCharmaine. Update posts are always free. I've been Royston Charmaine. This has been Exploring the Concept. Until next time, peace and love.